Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How's it going? Wait, is this working? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna press record on my phone so you have that on your end. Hold on 1 second though. I have to text someone something like.
Yeah, all good.
All right.
Wow, that's quite the collection you've got behind you. Lots of
Yes, this is
instruments.
my home studio here.
How long's it taken you to amass all that stuff?
It kind of comes in and out. So it's like, that piano, this upright piano is fairly new because I got it when I moved out to LA, which was like a couple of years ago now. And then that mini Moog in the back is probably like 3 years old. So none of this is actually that old
Yeah,
because, I'll always like sell and buy a new toy. There's
yeah.
other things you're not,
Always exciting to
but
get something new.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
just
wait, are you in Melbourne?
Victoria. Yeah, so about 3 hours out from Melbourne.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew this, but the Mike Akerman, who was the keyboard, this other keyboard player in Shredding Tears during like Fly the Knife and everything,
Yeah.
is from Melbourne.
Huh. There you go. Yeah.
Maybe
Cool.
that's the but
Well, I'll just launch right into the questions. What's your most memorable or favorite moment from when you were performing live?
oh wow, okay. There was a very memorable moment in my head, not necessarily for a positive reason, but where we were playing a Halloween show. I forget. I think it was in Austin. I'm pretty sure, and we were like, there was a fairly big crowd, and we were about maybe a third into our set, and just all the power went off, and there was no electronics, and then the police came and broke it up. So that's very memorable to me because it was just like it was like a farce of a gig.
Yeah. What could go wrong did.
Yeah, exactly.
So then, this is something I think about a lot, and I guess it's more of a generic interview question, but I still think it's worthwhile. What's something you wish you had been told before you started your music career?
Hmm. I think I'm trying to think of a good one for that. It would probably be something related to patience, I think, and sort of like being. I would be less stressed out. I was very stressed out and kind of anxious and constantly trying to do the next thing and like and really it would upset me and it would throw me into like dark places occasionally when things didn't go exactly how I wanted them to go. And I think if I could start over, I would want to know that it's never going to go exactly how you want it to go, and you're always going to have another project, and you can relax more. So
Yeah, so some of my favorite musicians might have heard of them. Corey Wong or Ben Folds is probably a bigger name. They speak about when they feel that they've finally made it, and for both of them, that wasn't until they were early 30s or late 20s. Ben Folds was
right.
talking, he got his call at like 3 a.m., like for his first gig when he was like 29 or something. When
Uh-huh.
did you
Yeah.
feel like you'd made it as a musician?
I mean, I don't feel like I've made it still, so
And
Ben Folds is in a better position to say he's made it than I am, I guess. But I mean, I guess you know, if we're not talking in terms of money, made it just in the sense of a feeling of oh, I'm a professional. I do this now, like for my life or whatever. It would be somewhere around the time that people, and really honestly, after I put the first album out and people were responding to it, and there was this, and I could see there were people that I didn't know um, amassing and that were sort of like you know reacting to that album as if it were like some bigger artist that the way I would react to an artist.
yeah,
That definitely made me feel like I hit some level where I was connecting with people, and so
yeah.
I don't know.
So
There's
then
not an exact moment there, but.
Yeah, just that sort of feeling and yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so if you weren't a musician, what do you think you'd be doing now?
Well, I went to school for film, so I would probably, I imagine, be doing something in that department. I don't know exactly what, but I was writing, and
Yep. So,
that's a lot of.
uh,
Go on, sorry.
oh no, all good. This latency's not
So
great.
a lot of my friends are doing that, and so in theory, I would be just on that track that I
Yeah.
sort of abandoned. I started doing music, so.
Yep. So during the Birds Pledge music campaign, you were offered up scarified versions of songs. So obviously you did Hortense. I was curious about that. I went and did some digging trying to find the original song, and all I could find was recordings and sheet music from like 100 years ago. What was sort of the process with doing that, and who requested it? Like,
You know what? I forget off the top of my head who requested. I can look it up, but yeah, it was a good request because it was someone who actually all the requests were kind of smart because they weren't just giving me like an ELO song or something like that. It was like it was stuff that was like oh, how's Bryan gonna actually interpret this, and so that was his thinking. I remember he was like I have this old song that's like never really been properly recorded, and he had some like really old gramophone rip of it, that he showed me, and then he had the sheet music, so I saw the sheet music, and then I kind of just went with it.
yeah, well, that's something that I figured. All you've got is just this bit of sheet music, and then you've gone and like expanded it, so you've got like five, six different genres in this one track, and that's yeah, lots of interpretation with that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's one part of that I think where in the middle of it where I do that really warped kind of like vaudevillian little
Yeah.
moment where it was like kind of like a nod to what it actually sounds like, but I was trying to make it nightmarish.
Yeah, no, that
So
was really cool. When I actually went and found that original recording, I went, "Hey, this is just like what Brian did. That's pretty neat." Yeah, it was like a little Easter egg from 100 years ago.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So then my next thing is birds. What was your inspiration behind birds? Why did you choose to write all these songs with birds as the theme?
Well, I'm not sure many people have like picked up on this, but it's really I mean, it's probably somewhat clear that the bird element is a giant metaphor of some kind. But what I want, I really had been getting into like more kind of like freak folky bands, like and like some of the Welsh bands and like Incredible String Band and like some of these sort of like acoustic. I wanted to do something acoustic oriented. I knew, and I'd been playing more acoustic guitar, so I wanted to like incorporate that more and something orchestral. I was just trying to shift the sound a little bit, and then as I was writing, like the birds thing just kept coming out, and then I sort of also was going through this life transition, and this sort of like existentialism of like flocks of birds and like the symbolism in them and just like how weird they are. It was like matching emotionally with what was going on in my life. So it just kind of like happened very naturally. It's probably the most kind of like, oh, I didn't intellectualize this too much album I've done. Like it was just sort of like this came out of me and this is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So then, what's your favorite bird?
that's a good question. I should probably have an answer for that. Um, I think maybe a pelican, which I didn't actually even do a song about. There was a song about it, but it got cut. So,
How many songs did get cut?
well, I wrote so many, and then I don't know if you knew this, but I have this whole sequel album, I guess you'd say. It's a double album that I'm like halfway finished with. I would have probably been done by now if COVID didn't happen, but it's like that I think is another 18 or 19 songs that are all written around the same time, but it's different. They're fairly different vibe wise. So
And is that because you originally wrote them as part of the overall Birds project, and then sort of when you decided to split it up, they sort of went their own way and started getting their own sound, or was it just sort of different to begin with?
they are able. When I wanted the Birds album to kind of feel like a song cycle-y, just like I wanted it all to make sense emotionally. I mean, that's true of everything when I'm trying to do a full length, but that one I just those songs felt right to me together, and then the ones that I liked just as much or some of them are even. I could picture the sequel one being even more appealing to a lot of people because it's a lot of like the sort of poppier stuff,
Yeah.
and not quite as like ornate and bizarre.
Yeah, when I first listened to Birds, I was kind of like, holy moly, what have I just been hit with? That was nuts. It took me about a week before I could actually really start to focus in and start to enjoy it. It really just hit me compared to all your other stuff.
There's definitely a lot going on, and I think it is kind of different from some of the earlier stuff. I think that the new one is the sequel one is a little more aligned with some of the earlier stuff.
Yeah, I reckon
And I
there's
was probably intentionally trying to leave those off because of my contrarianism and wandering spirit.
yeah, no, it'll be cool to go back to some of the sort of original vibe. Um,
Yeah.
what's your favorite movie? You're a film student, you should have a good answer.
I always have a few. I like I say Nashville, which is a Robert Altman movie from 1975. Also Barry Lyndon, Kubrick from 1975. So apparently I love 1975. And yeah, those are my two top, I think. So.
And then, well, you've mentioned it. What can you tell me about Mondo Plumage? It's a big double album. Is there any special secrets?
Well, that's kind of what I mentioned. I would say that it's. I'm trying to think of if there's a secret side to it. Well, it's going to be more of a band, like a live. It's more of a band album because it's going to have a lot of it. It's going to have a different. It's going to be a brighter, like sort of poppier, happier thing. But it's also all over the place. It'll be fun. It's good. I think it's great actually. I'm excited about it. I just don't know when I'm gonna be able to finish it because it got very stalled. The engineer I've been working with, he's been sick, not from COVID, which is weird. He has another thing going on with him. And then Graham from Shredding Tears is gonna do all the guitars on it, but he hasn't been able to come down because of the COVID thing. I mean, I don't know how it is in Australia right now, but it's like in LA, it's still a very like you can't do anything here.
Oh yeah, it's completely like that in just Victoria. Everywhere else in Australia is fine, but in Victoria, in the city, you can't go 5 kilometers from your house. Like it is,
Right.
yeah, real locked down.
So
Yeah.
it's made it difficult. Although I have another full album too that is like that I that I ended up writing and I've started to record. I'm just gonna do it all myself because I can't really do much else with other people right now. So
Yeah.
that might end up getting done before Mono Plumage. So we'll see.
Lots to
But
look forward to.
yeah.
So recently, you sent through some sheet music for a couple of your tracks, and it wasn't until I was following this sheet music, listening to the songs, that I realized just how complex the piano parts were. And if that was the case, all the parts for all the other instruments must be so complex, and there's just so many layers that it's hard to single this stuff out. Do you feel like you've written a lot of complexity?
I don't think of it that way. I'm never really like I'm not like pushing for that. I think it's just that's my influences and that's I mean you're a piano player, right?
Yeah.
I assume you're asking. Yeah. You tend to go in that direction because piano is invites that so much more and maybe you're learning like classical stuff and maybe you know what I mean? It's just like you have so many more things you can do with your fingers that the arrangements sometimes go in that direction. But I'm always trying to like make things less complex and then I'll try to do that and then it ends up sounding so insane to someone else, and so
Yeah.
it really.
And
But
yeah, it's funny how well even all these crazy parts, how well they align. Is there much workshopping of that? Getting different parts together and changing it once you've heard them?
I think well a lot of times I do demos that are like fairly precise, where I make sure I have all that figured out. And the only workshopping is just me kind of experimenting and doing it. When it's with like bands and other players, there will be some of that, but it tends to be like something that I just know. I sort of hear the arrangement when I'm writing the song.
Yeah.
So, in mixing there'll sometimes be a lot of workshopping, like things like, I tend to put way too much on the tracks. And so there'll be so many tracks, like hundreds of tracks, and then whoever I'm working with or mixing with will have to like, it's like a little like it's like I sort of sometimes compare it to like like sculpting. Like I'll just like, or like, you know, some form of painting where you're just throwing a bunch of stuff out there and then you have to actually like pick away to
Yeah.
find the shape of the thing, you know? Um,
So if we get to the songwriting process, what's your primary songwriting tool? Will you sit down at a piano and use that to figure out bass lines and stuff, or will you now at this point go to pick up a bass?
it was piano for, I would say the first like 10, yeah, I don't know, maybe it was piano for the first like few, everything up to like Daffy's Elixir was very much written on piano. And then I wanted to just shift it around, you know, and you obviously you just write very differently on different instruments just because they do different things. Certain things sound better. So a lot of the like Evil Arrow stuff and then Bird stuff is written on guitar. And then I've actually been trying to get my drumming up better. And so this new thing I've been working on, the thing I was just talking about, was like a lot of it's like written with percussion. So which gives it a different vibe. But I mean, I always go back to piano. I mean, piano obviously is my first instrument and my like the thing I'm actually the best at. So I can write better on that. If I have to write professionally for something, unless they've like asked for something, because I do like composing and stuff too. Yeah. Unless they ask for something like that's rock or something like that, I'm always on the piano.
Yeah, I find that when I'm playing around with different bass things on the piano, I'll not really be finding something I like that fits what I'm trying to do, but then I'll go pick up the bass and then just sort of naturally what you start, like obviously it's completely different shape and feel, so the natural movements vary and it does then slot in a bit better, I found.
Right. Yeah, I also find that, and maybe you find this too, like bass was always the first most natural instrument. When I moved away from piano, like bass was the one that I was like, oh, I feel like connected to this instrument in a lot of ways. I think it's because we play bass as piano players, you know?
Yeah.
Like we're playing bass always. So it's like, it might be just that you're naturally able to understand it more, you know?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So my first instrument after the piano, I got an electric guitar and I played that for a bit and that was great, but I want a bass. So then a year later, I got the bass and now my poor electric guitar, I pick it up like once a year.
Yeah. No, it's, I think I think bass feels more like the piano. That's what it is, you know? Like it feels, you can get that like sensation from it a little more. A guitar is like a weird alien.
Yeah, especially dealing with a pick, that's a big adjustment for me.
That's annoying for sure.
So then continuing with the songwriting stuff, what's your processes? Is it you bang out a riff on the piano and think that's cool, let's find some chords and then do a melody, or is it lyrics, then melody, then music? How do you do that?
I usually like, I wouldn't really call it improv because it's not like a jazz thing, but I'll definitely like just sit at the piano and start dicking around a little bit and then singing too, like singing to myself even, like, you know, and then just something will start forming or I'll start, often like the chorus or the hook will just come at once. Like I'll just start singing the words, you know, it's just sort of like, it's just this one process in a weird way. But I also will eventually then find, because as I'm usually writing, especially for the Bryan Scary albums, like I'm writing for something, you know, like it's like if I'm writing for the theme that I'm writing in, it starts to get easier and easier because I know where I'm going and I know what kind of like sounds are supposed to be there and like what kind of language I'm going to use, you know. So, but yeah, I would say it's often just a one-stop shop process where I'm like getting the lyrics and the melody and like some main rhythmic idea all at once, like as like a burst, you know. And then I have to kind of like do all the hard work and connect sections and, you know, evolve sections and all that stuff. But,
Yeah. What's the longest you've ever worked on a song for? And still released it.
And still what?
And still released it.
That's a good follow-up question, right? Because I definitely have so many that I've thrown out, you know, where it like, and it's kind of tragic because I'll come up with like 3/4 of a song I think is like amazing and I'll be like so excited I just can't figure out something about it. One that comes into my head is like as just nightmarishly long and I it took me forever to finish was Faintless Moody on Daffy's Elixir, which was like I think I had like bits of it for a while and I really liked the bits I had, and then I just like couldn't. I remembered like it took me a year to actually like get that finished.
Yeah, and I guess listening to that, if you chopped it up in a few key places and played it to someone, they'd think, oh, you've just played me bits from three different songs. So I guess, yeah,
Right.
you can sort of see that I really like this bit. What the hell am I going to do next? And then the next part really is, what the hell? This is completely different, and yet it still fits. It's yeah, I guess when there's that
Yeah,
on and off.
definitely that little that quality to it for sure. But even it might not even be always that. It might have been that with that song. I can't remember. But like it might even just be like there's a chord missing, and I don't know what it is, and I have to like get from one part to another part, and it's just like it doesn't sound right. If I use this chord, it's the obvious chord, but then it makes the next part not hit as hard, and it doesn't sound as like cool, you know. So it's like you have, and then it's hard to kill your baby. So like sometimes it's like sometimes you have to like, oh, I should like actually remove that section before entirely, and then like put a new thing in there. Then that transition works better. You know, it's like those things are hard to do when it's just you sitting there. You know.
Yeah.
Like if you're co-writing with someone, those things can happen quicker because someone can like come up with that idea. But I hate co-writing with people, so it never happened.
Yeah, you can never have it quite how you want it.
Exactly.
Have you ever had parts of a song where you've liked it in the original context of the first song you were working on, but then decided to scrap it and then reused it later in a different tune?
Wait, say that one more time.
So like you're working on a song, you write a section of it, but then decide to cut it from that song. Have you ever then gone and taken it and
Oh,
reused
right,
it
yeah,
in another
like
tune?
use the verse on like another song,
Yeah.
like it doesn't happen that often. Because I probably because the way I think of songs is like these like monolithic things. It's something that I should probably do more, honestly, or should try experiment with more. I've definitely done things like that more recently though. Like there's things on Birds which and Birds was an exercise for me also in like trying to like um sort of like I wanted to get a little more into like sonic space with a little like simpler element to the writing on some of that stuff, you know, like repetition and things that I haven't like done as much in the past. So like there's like that song Bird or Beast on Birds is was originally just like the outro of another thing I had written. Um the kind of the way I would do something on like one of the earlier albums. And it was like some like 5-part thing, you know, like that was like the outro. And then
Yeah.
I was like, I might not put this album on. I might this song. I don't know if I'm gonna do this. And then I was like, but I love that part. That's actually enough for like a full kind of weird song. And then, so that's kind of an example of what you're saying. But
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
actually like take a verse and put it with a different chorus, I do that less. I think, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Bird or Beast, that's got a pretty cool synth sound towards the end of it. Can you remember that? Can you tell me anything about that?
Oh, on that song, those are guitars. I think that's like
Oh,
a guitar pedal situation with like an ebo probably.
yeah.
Um, or are you talking about the very end with like those vocal, like the kind of vocal thing?
No, no, I think it's the guitar part. Now that you say that, that
Yeah,
does sort of actually make sense. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So,
What's it like with the Ebos?
have you ever played around with one of those?
No, I haven't. Just seen them. The first time I saw one actually was when you were at the BTR radio doing Daffy's.
Oh yeah, and so was Graham playing with ebo or something?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
They're super cool. If you can get, I actually have one sitting right here. If you can get one, I mean, you turn it on and there's a little light that shows you it's on, and then it has these like this like area right here that's like you have to. What it does is it vibrates the string, so you put this over the string in this little groove and put the string between these little grooves here, and then it vibrates the string, so it goes like when it's electric, you know. And then you can slide around. So it's like, so it's got like a kind of a theremin-y, otherworldly, cool quality to it. You know, I mean, it was used all over the place in the '70s, and I think it became sort of a cliche to a lot of people, but I don't care. I think
You've just mentioned a theremin. What's the most difficult or out there instrument you've ever tried to use?
ooh, I'm trying to think. Weird keyboard instruments for sure. Some of the stuff on Daffy's, we went into this guy I know in New York studio, and he had like so many weird like chimes and like old synths, and he had this like old electric harpsichord thing, and so a lot of those were like super strange. I mean, a theremin I tried to play on Birds. There is theremin on Birds, and I ended up bringing someone in to play it.
Yeah, those things look mental. Just the
That
control
was
and
funny.
the
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, Moog makes one now. I don't know if you've seen that, like the mini theremin thing, and
yeah.
it actually has a tune. has a tuning thing, so it's like way easier to play. Like, you're
Yeah,
always in tune. But
yeah, I saw that recently, and then you can just slowly turn down like the auto tune. Yeah, I'd be tempted to
yeah.
get one, but I don't know if I could justify that.
Yeah, I think that you can get them used for like 150 now or something.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's still like a it's still a cost. But I mean, they're fun. Absolutely, it's a toy for sure. It's an effect, But
Yeah.
it definitely works on. I mean, it's definitely like an immediate. It's one of those instruments where it's just like, oh, that's the thing. Like that's an immediate, like theremin. Your song now sounds like slightly sci-fi and 50s.
So, who are your favorite artists?
That's just there's so many thousands. It's hard to say. I always say Dylan, which is like sort of like an unappealing answer to people who like my stuff usually, but because he's not the most musically sophisticated. But yeah, he probably is my favorite. I mean, but there's so many. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
You
But
mentioned you mentioned ELO before when someone you said with the pledge music, I don't want to just get an ELO song to play. I How much do you think ELO influences your work? I can sometimes occasionally hear a couple of ELO sounding things in your music.
there are a few artists that I am so sort of like naturally influenced by, I think, and ELO is definitely one. I would say even more earlier, like when I don't know if you know the early, super early stuff when it was called The Move, and Roy Wood was also in the band, and like so like not as much like the famous ELO, but like some of the earlier stuff. It's a little more like aggressive and raw, but has a similar sensibility. That's very influential. I mean, Elton John's also very influential, but those are two bands that like I try to avoid when I'm writing. Like I will try to actively avoid moves like that, like doing things they would do, because I'm like I can't do that. But it comes naturally to me to do that.
Yeah.
I remember at one point I sat down at the piano, started writing out this song with these chords I like. I worked on it for a couple of weeks, and then maybe about 3 months later, I'm lying in bed. It's like 1 a.m. I'm just not sleeping. I'm thinking about this song for some reason, and then it hits me. Have I just completely copied a Michael Bublé song? And I went and listened to it, and I did. So for
Right.
like 6 months, I was playing this song thinking, oh, this is great. I've subconsciously just copied Bublé's "Haven't Met You Yet," and it was quite interesting. Have you had moments like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I have ones where I've had to play it for people and be like, "Is this sound like another song?" Because like, it feels too much. And then there's been a few moments where people have called me out on doing it, which I then go back and I'm like, I kind of see what they're saying, but it happens just because you have all that stuff swimming in your head, and you're writing, and sometimes it just like it's a natural phenomenon.
Yeah, and there's only so many ways you can play notes before they start to sound like something else.
Yeah, exactly. I would say influences for me are like they move in like different, I have different like eras when I'm more influenced by one thing or another, and I get like obsessed with something, and then I like that sometimes is where the albums come out of, like some recent obsession I have, and I've definitely gone in waves where I'll like I'll have like really like I'll get really into like artsier, like crazier stuff, but then I'll get really into like simple folk things, or like it just depends, and I don't really know what it depends on actually.
Well, our half hour is nearly up, so last question. Do you ever think
Yeah.
you'll return to playing live? Obviously, your current music's really quite complicated and you can't really play 100 layers on stage, but do you ever plan on doing that again?
I would love to. It's a bit of a. I'm in LA now, so I moved away. All the original band is kind of all in different places, but I think people would be able to do it if I push for it, and I think probably I would like to. It would just take a little bit of. There needs to be a little wind in the sails. It can be a lot of work for not a ton of gain.
Yeah.
And I sometimes find that I'll do the same amount of like sort of energy that comes after you play live, I can just do online now. Not that I release that much online anyway, but like it's almost like I don't know. It depends. Also, right now it's hard to think about because of
Yeah.
what's going on. But I feel more drawn to the studio and just like writing and that kind of stuff than I do playing live at the moment.
Yeah.
That could you know.
Maybe you'll write up some new songs and think, I've got to play these live. It just, situational.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, the new bird stuff, the monoplumage stuff, is very live playable. The album itself, I don't even know what I would do. I mean, without having strings and without, it has to be rearranged significantly, which is,
Yeah, I remember Heaven on a Bird. That's the very first of your tunes I heard. So it was cool going onto YouTube and then finding an arrangement where you were playing mostly with electric guitar. That was the main melody. So that was a cool little workaround. Yeah.
We used to do it all the time with the band because it was we just wanted to have like big energy on stage, and it was, if we had done the songs exactly as they were recorded, it'd be like you'd be hearing a piano solo from me for a period of time, and we were playing in these like kind of high energy shows, so it didn't really fit, but yeah.
Well, thanks for coming and having a chat. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, great to connect.
All
And
right.
appreciate it. Yeah, if you have any other like follow-up questions or anything you need from me, just let me know. I'm around.
Yeah, cool. Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. All right. I'll send you this file too.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Just Google Drive it or something.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Great.
Thanks.
All right. See ya.
See ya.